Okay, I want to do a demo on how to animate pivots in Maya, which I didn't even know was possible until I ran into a problem on a rig and sort of was troubleshooting and found this as a possibility. So I'll just go ahead and show you. I set up a test scene, not a fantastic animation, but watch the corners as he moves. You know, his corners are staying put, they're not moving around. I didn't have to go in and mess around. Um, with the curves to make them stick. They just it just works, and it's not a complicated setup or anything like that. This is just three mesh objects that are parented together. I'm not using any kind of redirects. I'm not doing any kind of grouping system or hierarchy. It's just animating a pivot back and forth. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do. I'll just do it on a new scene for clarity. Just go ahead and create a cube, and I'm just going to position the cube where it's sitting on the grid. That way you can clearly see that it's not moving up and down once we get a few things set up. So I'll just go ahead and freeze this guy, delete some history just so we keep it clean over here. Okay, so the way it works is you actually need to turn on a few channels that aren't on by default. So get into your channel control. You can get it here from the channel box to channel control, or alternatively window, general editors, channel control, wherever the heck it is. There it is. So what we want to do is dig down here and find rotate, pivot, translate, and rotate, pivot. Select those and then just slide them over into the keyable category. And we're starting to get a little crowded over here, and I know that I'm not going to need to key visibility, translation, or scale, so I'm just going to go ahead and hide those guys. And that brings up one interesting point of this method. You won't actually need to translate anything. You're just going to move your pivot, and your translation is going to happen based on the fact that your pivot's moving your object along, because your pivot, moves from one end to the other. So in order to move pivots around on the PC, you can press Insert. On the Mac, you can press Home, and that puts you sort of in a permanent mode until you press the button again. You can also hold D on the keyboard, which is what I'm going to do for most of this demo. So I'll hold D and then press V to get to vert snap. Snap that over, and here you can see actually what's happened. So it's done a translation on those that you can see show up here. And we're going to need to key all these channels, so I'm just going to leave them all on, and I'm just going to key them all basically every time. So we're ready to go. I'm going to press S, key all those out, go to some further frame, figure out what I need to do. So I'm just going to animate this thing where it's sort of walking down the line a little bit here. So that looks fine. Once I get here, I want to move my pivot. I actually want my pivot to be over here at this point. So I haven't set a key yet. You could set a key and then move your pivot again if you wanted to, and set the key again, but I'll just go ahead and press D and hold it, press V, and then just snap over to this point here. And now I'm ready to set a key. Just press S, and now I've got my first leg. So the pivot actually moves from this corner to this corner, and there's a bit of an interpolation error right now. You can see that the shape is actually digging into the ground, which is not what we want. So we actually just need to go change how those curves are being interpolated. So you can do that in the graph editor, and I'll just select those channels, or just be dealing with those. And here you can actually see what's going on. There's interpolation happening across these channels, and we just want them to be stepped. So we just want it to stay at this until we get to the next key. So I'll just turn, again, I have all 6 channels selected, and just change that to stepped. And there you can see there's no interpolation. It just stays 1 until it gets to the next key, and then it switches to that. Okay, so and now that takes care of our problem, so that the object never sinks below its pivot point here. No interpolation happening. So at this point, I'll go ahead and move out to frame 8, set this up to something like this, and go ahead and set that key. And if I wanted to go ahead and flip this guy up, which I'll go ahead and flip him up one more time, and then we'll come back around the bend. Hopefully this is making sense at this point, and it's just sort of iteration now. So I'm going to hold D and then add V, move my pivot point down here. You got to remember to set a key there, and that way you're actually going to be holding that pivot point change. Move out to here. Let's see, it looks like about 270. I could be really rough. Actually, I don't even need to do this by the number, so I'll just rotate this up. and then I'll move the pivot point again. This time I want it to happen up here. I gotta remember to set that key. So there's definitely some no, that looks fine. Just a little bit of a weird playback issue there, but it's holding up the way I intended. Um, it looks like what happened was I didn't actually get my key set. I had a channel selected. That's why. So I'm going to go ahead and move that back up and make sure I don't have any channels selected here, and then press S, and that way I'm keying everything. So I definitely have an interpolation error happening now. Again, this is something that shouldn't happen once you key all your channels, but if you ever have this, essentially you just have to come in here and make sure that it knows that you want these things to be stepped. So that should have fixed the problem, which it did. So now it stepped across to there, and now my pivot point's already up here, so I'll just move out down the line, something like this. Again, I'll move my pivot point. This will be the last time. Hopefully the idea here is clear. Key that. So then, without moving, so we haven't done any translation at all, and we're sort of just crawling this thing all around by just moving the pivot point and animating that. So it's a pretty powerful method, actually good for a lot of stuff. So hopefully you'll find that useful.